Thank you for joining us on the program Newspunch, coming to you from Ben Television. My name is Tunde Alabi. As we come to you this beautiful evening, taking a look at issues around UK, Africa, and Nigeria. Today, we are in Africa, we are in Nigeria, and I've got guests that will be taking a look at issues that affect Nigerians abroad and Nigerians in Nigeria. First, we'll be taking a look at the issue of corruption in Nigeria. How really corrupt is Nigeria? Are Nigerians very really corrupt, and are we able to change the state of minds of Nigeria and its leadership, or the leadership in Nigeria, when it comes to the issue of corruption? And also I've been joined much later by guests that will be taking a look at the killings in Plateau State, Nigeria. We do know that in recent times, just lately, scores of people have been killed in Plateau State, including Taraba and a couple of mid-belt part of Nigeria. And it does appear that the security forces in Nigeria, including the police and the Nigerian army, are overwhelmed. We'll be taking a look at some of these issues around the killings in Nigeria, especially in Plateau, Taraba, and other places in that part of the country. My name is Tunde Alabi. You're welcome to Newspunch. This evening, let's start this program by taking a look at the issue of corruption in Nigeria. How really corrupt is Nigeria, or how really corrupt are Nigerians? Joining me on the program today is a lecturer. My guest is a lecturer at the University of Westminster. Of course, she's a Nigerian, and she is a specialist in several areas, including business, admin, including economics, and she will be able to explore some of the issues around corruption and economic development, including how corruption has impacted negatively on the growth of Nigeria, including infrastructural development. And my guest is Dr. Francis Ekulugo, here joining me on Ben Television this evening. Doctor, thank you for joining us on the program. Good evening.
Good evening.
All right. Let me ask you, what is your view? How would you define corruption? What is your view of corruption generally?
Right. My definition of corruption is very broad indeed, because people could do different things that could be involved in corruption. It's not just taking money or embezzling money. People always think that corruption is only about bribery and embezzlement. It's not really. It could be non-financial as well. So corruption is when somebody is using the power conferred to him or her to gain personal
advantage.
So when that happens, it could happen in different ways. For example, someone could pay for a holiday trip for someone in order to do something for that person. That's bribery, but sometimes it's difficult to find those ones out. But I think in Nigeria we are more involved in the bribery of embezzlement and
financial malpractices.
Yes, that is, yes. Yeah.
And so the issue when it comes to corruption, basically, that affects most Nigeria, in your view, will be financial mismanagement and malpractices, basically.
Yes.
But how really corrupt in terms of financial malpractices and mismanagement is Nigeria, from your own view?
Yes, I think so. Because, from what we're reading from the newspapers and what's happening and how we've used our money in the past, our oil money, even when oil money was very high, the price was high, could show that we misplaced our money. Where did we put the money? People have taken it. You read in the paper, you don't need to be told what's going on in Nigeria in terms of corruption and embezzlement. So I think Nigeria is corrupt. Corrupt everywhere.
So that corruption has affected the psyche of most Nigerians, in your view?
Yes, every Nigerian. Because when you talk about corruption, I think every Nigerian is involved. Everyone. From the grassroots to the people in the government, the executives in the government, they're all corrupt. All of us are corrupt in one way or the other. You know, I still ask myself, can anyone in Nigeria say he hasn't given a penny to anyone to do something which that person is supposed to do?
You will be eating at, you will be creating shall I say that view will sound a little bit controversial. My viewers watching the program will say to you, I'm going minute, no, I'm not corrupt. I have never been involved in corruption. I've never given any bribe to anybody. But down the line, you genuinely think almost every Nigerian is corrupt.
Yes, because I mean, I've witnessed sometimes when no one asks for money, and people are giving money for the job to be done for them. You know, you see them bribing before even they were asked. So what would they call that? It's
no,
bribery.
okay, all right. Would you be able to differentiate cultural value of appreciation, appreciating people, from using your official status to attract undue advantage? Don't forget, we're in Nigeria, we're in Africa, where naturally there is a sense of appreciation. You want to lobby, even everywhere in the world there is lobbying. You want to lobby somebody, your son, your daughter, to buy you something. You say, look, okay, £5, buy me something, £3, take the £2. Would in your assessment, would that be corruption? Because you said even down to the least person in our community.
Yes, I wouldn't say that's corruption. But you see, corruption has gone into our culture that is even difficult to differentiate when you are giving someone a tip or when you are dashing someone something, the way we call it in Nigeria. It's difficult now because corruption has gone deeply ingrained in our culture that people, even the grassroots, they don't see that the person who is giving bribe is equally guilty as the person who is receiving the bribe. So because of the culture and embedded culture into corruption, it's difficult to differentiate. And then our children, like I said, if you give a child £5 and say keep £2, I don't think that's the best way to do it. Because in a way, you're making the child believe that every time he or she goes to do something, we'll get some money. So bribery, corruption is endemic, deeply embedded in our culture. And that's what we have to really get rid of. Because of that, people are saying, oh, this is not bribery, this is bribery. Can we go back and look at what we do and how we've accepted bribery, corruption as part of our culture?
So in your view, you think it's almost impossible? Let me put it straight to you. Is it possible to eradicate corruption in our system in Nigeria?
I think so. Because Nigerians are intelligent people. They're resilient, they're creative. They know what they want, they like good things. And I think every Nigerian would like to have a society, Nigerian society, that is free of corruption, where our money is being used constructively to develop the country so that our country will be attractive to other people from other parts of the world. So yes, we could do it. If we say yes, we could do it, we will do it. I know what Nigerians are like. Nigerians are determined. When they're determined, they will do it. But it's just finding the right approach to do it.
What approach will facilitate eradicating that corrupt tendency?
At the moment, the government is actually looking at the top only. It's okay trying to get those who embezzled money and those who took bribes and that. But we have also to look down to the grassroots. We need to educate the grassroots because the children who are coming up, I would say we normally talk about the youth. The youth were brought up in a country where bribery is part of the culture. The youth we have now. But we still have the next generation coming up. We need to educate them. We need to change their mindset. Everybody's mindset, not just the younger ones, everybody. But it's not something we will do in 1 year, because we always want things to happen immediately. It's something that will take time. Even if we got 5% every year, it might take 10 years. In this country we are here, in Britain, there's still corruption. But what we are talking about is the level of corruption. We could reduce our level of corruption year by year, and we can do it.
Let's start with grafts, corrupt financial mismanagement and malpractices from the leadership. Is it possible to have a kind of a leadership in Nigeria where money will not be the target, will not be the motivating factor?
Right. I think that goes back again to the mindset. You see, everyone who wants to go into politics is looking for money. That's the main objective. I haven't seen someone who's maybe the present president, we say he's not corrupt, or some of the people working with him. But I haven't seen most of these politicians who are there for money. They're not there because they want to redress the country. If not, what have they done? And what are they doing?
Would you blame the desire for personal enrichment on structure? If you're a politician, you want to contest an election, governorship election, even a councillorship election, the amount of money you'll be asked to pay is outrageous and astronomical. Say, for instance, APC is probably asking its members who are willing to contest presidential aspirants to pay 10 million naira. PDP is asking probably its members to pay 10 million naira. Now, if every aspirant pays 10 million naira, that is just to obtain the form. That does not include what you pay to become a candidate in primaries, to lobby other people to vote for you. So we're talking about hundreds of other millions of naira or dollars or even pounds sterling exchanging hands. So when people have put in huge amount of money to get a ticket, to become a candidate, to win an election, do you think the structure itself has not provided an avenue for people to want to recoup their investment?
Yes.
And be corrupt?
Yes, I think it's part of the system. It's part of what we have to put in place to stop this level of corruption we've got. We need to look at the way we do things, the way the politicians are elected, how they woo people, what goes on during the election period, how much money do they actually use, and we have to track all these things. I think there should be something, legislation that should limit the amount of money people pay and the amount of money they spend in their campaign and so on. If that's not done, like you're saying, of course, if they use all their money, maybe it's likely when they get in, they want to recoup their money. So it's something we have to, it's not just, like I'm saying, it's not just putting people in jail or asking them to bring back the money. We have to do other things, like making sure people are not spending a lot of money while they're electioneering, or giving out money to the village people, to people, how much they spend canvassing and paying for their votes, and that should be actually stopped, because they are the things fueling the corruption. And there are other things, which we have to look into. As I said, Nigerians are not stupid. We are clever enough. We know what's going wrong. Why don't we call a spade and look into that and see how we can stop all that to enable us to curb the corruption? It's not enough asking people to bring back the money they've taken or sending them to jail. I would prefer a situation where we don't have to send anyone to jail and you don't return our money, just don't take it.
Just don't take
Don't
the
take
money.
it, don't take it, yeah.
But there must be deterrent, considering that from your analysis that the tendency to steal is almost inherent in the system.
Yes, because that's what, I mean, Nigeria is a place where no one is, you do no job, you are rich. You see somebody not even going to work, the person is very rich. So the growing children, the children coming up thinks, okay, you can sleep on your bed 24 hours every day and you are rich. And how do you get the money from?
And nobody ask question.
Well, maybe they do. You don't know what they say to them. Because sometimes I think that some people think that fraud, corruption is being clever. That's the best way to get money, and you are clever. You get money for what you didn't do, you didn't work for.
But honestly, Dr. Egulugo, would you blame an average Nigerian who, say for instance, minimum wage in Nigeria is 18,000 naira, okay, which is less than £100, probably £70 minimum wage. He's got family, he's got house rent to pay, he's got bills to take care of, and even this 18,000 naira doesn't come in on time. It probably comes in once in 2-3 months. Would you blame this poor man if he devises other means to make life comfortable for himself and his family?
I think that's another area I was looking at.
Considering the fact that there is no social welfare
Exactly.
in the system.
I think the government should come and bridge this gap. One is 18,000 naira is no way for anybody to survive in Nigeria now. And another one is, why don't we have free education? Because some of these parents, those people who are asking you, like if you go to the civil service to get your file, they're asking you for money. They're looking for money to pay their children's school fees. If the salary is not enough, why not compensate in another way? Free school, so parents won't be, nearing the school time, everything they can do to get money, they will do it. Give some, bring a little bit of social welfare to help out. It's part of curing the corruption. That's what I'm trying to say. It's not just sending people to jail, bring back the money. We have to look into all this minimum wage, increase it, look at children going to school. Why don't we have free education so parents don't have to worry? Every parent, you want to educate your child. You don't want to leave your child at home. So there are structural problems which we have to deal with.
Structural problems.
Yes.
And considering those structural issues Nigeria have at the moment, minimum wage, expensive educational system, the public education is dead, it's not functional. You need to go to private school, you pay per term, maybe 300,000 naira. How can somebody who earns 18,000 afford that? Yeah, he needs to send it. So, in your view, do you think, considering the structural deficiency that we have in Nigeria, and with government, either the current government or previous government, not looking at restructuring the deficient economic structural foundation in Nigeria, making the people the focus, do you think the issue of corruption will ever be dealt with in Nigeria?
There's something else I want to bring here. We look at the government as the only group that are going to solve this corruption.
But the government is supposed to provide a platform, the legislation, the enablement.
Yes, they have to enable it. But we also, the individuals, the private sector, we have to also help in doing this. We all want to cure. We want to eradicate corruption.
How does the private sector come in? The objective of every businessman is to make money. You set up a business, you want to make money, you're driving profit. That's the objective.
Yeah, but
we do know they have corporate social responsibilities.
But most of them are the bribers. They are the ones that give bribe to the people who take bribe. So they're part of it. We individuals are part of it. So if all of us have to put our hands together, the private sector, the individual, the government, the government alone, there's no way they could do it on their own. We need everybody to work together to get this done. And there's several areas we have to look at. I would suggest that we start having community discussions about this. We have to bring it down to the grassroots, to the village, to the community. Everyone will be aware of it. And with the government putting up the legislation and whatever they're doing, everything will come together. So we can't just sit down and say, oh, government should do this. No, 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 no. It's really, like I'm saying, if it's in the culture, the government cannot change the culture because that culture comes from, even within the local community, there's little bribery and whatever going on. I don't know whether you've been involved in where the little community are trying to settle a case. Someone goes at the back and gives the elders money. And that's it. Isn't it bribery? Mm-hmm. So who is it hurting? We're not talking about politicians that took money. We're talking about what's happening in the nuclear family even. You go at the back, buy drink, give them beer, give them everything, and the case will go the other way around. So I think it's corruption.
Endemic.
It's endemic, yes. It's something we have to start from the grassroots, children, community, household, and then working with the government. I think it's unfair to say that the government should do this, government should do that. We Nigerians are capable, we're intelligent, we know what we want.
But shouldn't the government provide the leadership?
Yes, they should.
Should they not provide the leadership? The government cutting down on its expenses, cutting down on its lifestyle, 20 convoy, all to one governor, to one minister. And then somebody's looking at that.
It's got something to do with Nigerian moral values. What we value. If we go into this, we get into longer discussion. There are things they do in Nigeria, even in the UK, where we have more rich people, they don't do it. The things we value in Nigeria is part of the corruption.
How do you mean the things we value in Nigeria?
Okay, for example, sometimes I'm watching your program, I see these lavishing weddings and all that. You think, what? Where did this money come from? Even Prince Harry's wedding some of them are not as lavish, it wasn't as lavish as what I watch sometimes on Nigerian television. The way everything is blown at the top. Isn't it time we start thinking? And when you do it, the poor man wants to do the same. And then that's changing the culture. Because you at the top, you did yours, and so lavishing, the poor man wants to take bribe and do his own.
All right. Dr. Francis Ekulugo from the University of Westminster, thank you for sharing your thought with us on the program today. But unfortunately, we need to go on a short break now. Yeah. I would have asked you, in your career, what advice, if you were to advise the government, just in 1 minute, what will you be telling the government in 1 minute?
What I'll be telling the government, because I use this to say, I run a course on management and leadership development, and some Nigerian executives, they've benefited from it. And I think while all this is going on, they need to need to give more training to people who are in the position so that they know what their jobs are and what they're supposed to do. I mean, some of them are there, they don't know what they're supposed to do. They don't know what their job description or what their portfolios are.
All right, Doctor, thank you for joining us on the program. We look forward to having you again at some other time. We're going on a very short break now. When we come back from this break, we'll be going to Plateau State. I've got some guys from Plateau State joining us, looking at the killings in that part of the world. Don't go away, we'll be back. From the beginning to the end, and that is why we are here. Keep watching Newspunch. Welcome to the program, and it's still Newspunch coming to you from Ben Television. I'm joined now by Dr. Chinan Dikwo, the Vice President of Plateau State Association in the United Kingdom here. And they'll be taking a look at the killings in that part of the world. Dr. Chinan, I mean, you live in the United Kingdom. Okay?
I do, yep.
And these killings happen in your state in Nigeria. Every time you hear about these killings, what runs through your mind?
Well, Tunde, thanks so much. Thanks for having me on the
You're
program.
welcome.
I deeply appreciate it. You're absolutely right. I am, an indigene of Plateau State. And you're right that anytime we hear about these killings, it almost guts you out. It guts you out. It breaks your heart. And I think it's particularly from the point of view of the killings becoming so frequent, so rampant, and escalating on a day-to-day basis. In fact, I give you an example. Plateau State and Jos has almost become like Iraq. Killings are so normal. In fact, people feel that it's weird and abnormal if there are no killings. That's what we've come to accept. If you go 1 week and nothing happens, you even start to think, what's going on? This is not normal. That's the state of Plateau State. So I want you to conceptualize that and think. You live in a place, your family lives in a place, your parents live there, and this is happening. It breaks your heart beyond anything I can describe. I can't find the words, really, to describe how I feel about the situation in Plateau State.
Do you think the government is doing enough? The government is doing what it can to bring the situation under control?
I'm glad you asked the question, and what I will say I don't think is out of the ordinary from, I'd say, what millions of Nigerians will say to you about this. You see, if you have conflict in an area and it happens for 1 year, okay, then that's understandable. Maybe there are lots of complex factors that affect it and therefore it can't be solved. If it goes on for 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15, like it has in Plateau, 20, 2 decades in Plateau, then I think, with all due respect, I can tell you that the cause of that crisis or problem is not far off. It would be something that's within. And I can tell you it goes beyond the people. I think government needs to start looking at itself very, very seriously to actually understand how it is contributing, aiding, abetting, being complicit to the problem. So if you ask me very directly, do I think government is doing enough? Absolutely not. Do I even think government is complicit? 100%. It's a very sad thing to say. It's a very, very sad thing to say. But I can tell you this, that we believe, and I believe, that government is working tooth and nail to make sure that this does not come to an end. And I'll give you an example.
Why would the government be interested in the killing of its own people?
It's a very interesting question. That's a very interesting question. And there are several reasons for that. There are several reasons which are very complex. It ranges from things which are political. There are political angles to this whole thing that you can see. There are economic factors related to it. There are equally social factors that are all related to this. But if you look at Plateau, I'll give you an example. 2 decades of killings. The last one.
These killings did not actually start under this administration.
No. Absolutely not.
So we cannot actually hold this administration responsible for the killings.
No, that would be unfair to do. That would be unfair to do. But these killings have escalated twofold, threefold under this administration. I'll give an example. Last week, and I want you to wrap your head around this, last week, 250 people were murdered. On the 22nd of June to the 24th of June, I just want you to conceptualize this. Killing started on Friday the 22nd of June. The killing carried on till the 24th of June, 48 hours. And this is a state that for the last year and a half, we've had soldiers stationed there. So there are soldiers in those villages, but then the attackers came and killed people for 48 hours. Explain that to me. Explain that to me. The soldiers are in the communities. The attackers came not for 1 hour, not 2, not 10 hours, not 15, not 24, 48 hours. Onslaught, killing people, guns, AK-47s, maiming them. So when you ask me the question, is government complicit? It's not difficult for one to understand that. It's not a hard thing for you to see. Plateau State has had the presence of military men, I think, for the last 15 years, as far as I remember, probably more. They were there, I think, from 2003 till date. We've had these people stationed in there. And if for 15 years the killings are escalating, 200 people killed last week, before that, in fact, 200 people killed. A couple of hours after that was stopped, we had 10 people killed. We had, I think, another 3, another 4. So it just keeps going on and on and on and on and on. So I think, back to your question, is government doing enough? 100% not. Is government complicit? I think we think so. And I'm being very direct about it.
Plateau State, we do know, must have produced people who have influence in the country, politically, economically, people with financial wherewithal, in and outside the country, who are indigents of the state. What are they doing to bring their resources together to stop this? Are the people themselves ready to take these things, the fights, not necessarily the fight of guns against, but using resources, human resources, their voice, their gathering meetings, to put pressure on the authorities to do what is right? Are people doing that in the state? Or you guys are just leaving the state en masse, trying to run away, and then do nothing?
Today, for me to answer that question, we have to understand, the first thing is actually understand what's going on in Plateau State. I think that's the first thing. What really is going on? And I'll take you a little back. If I talk to the average person, and probably yourself as well, I've heard it from this station. People call it farmer-herder clash. So people call it, it's a clash that's going on. But is it really a clash? That's step one. You're asking me, what are people doing? I'm going to describe that to you. But the first thing there is, if you're talking about a clash, that means two communities are warring against each other. Two people are fighting against each other. But if I just flip back a little bit, on the 28th of June, so literally just last week, Lord Alston, in the British House of Lords, I don't know if you saw the presentation, Lord Alston made the argument asking the government of Theresa May to consider changing that narrative of people calling what's happening in Jos to be a clash. It's not a clash. When you sleep in your house and you get surrounded by 1,000 militia, herdsmen militia with AK-47 who literally come to the village and they shoot and they kill and they maim and they rape. Okay? Now, this is not the first time this has been happening. This is something that's been going on for years. And the media, Ben TV included, and I'm being blatantly honest, and CNN and BBC and everyone, continues to call it a clash. Now conceptualize that. If you're calling this thing a clash, what can someone in Jos do? Because essentially, it's a lost cause. I think the media has a responsibility to look very closely at itself. With all of the evidence that's being presented right now, Fulani militia are decimating, cleansing natives in that particular area.
What are the people doing? Those that have the wherewithal. Plateau State has produced senior military officials, senior police officials, senior naval officers, senior people in high positions now and before. What are you people doing?
Great question. What are we doing?
Yes.
What can we do as citizens? We live in a state of Nigeria where literally all that you can do, and I think you alluded to it, is meet people, appeal to their psyche, help them by means of how they can have all the information they need, how they can defend themselves. That is all that we are doing. T.Y. Danjuma, General T.Y. Danjuma, because first thing you have to realize, this is not a Plateau problem. It's not even a Kaduna problem or a Taraba problem. It's not even an Edo problem. Okay? The entire Middle Belt is under siege, even going down to the south. So if you wrap your head around that, lots of the leaders, General T.Y. Danjuma came out, and what did he say very clearly? Defend yourselves. Defend yourself. For 15 years, the military have not been able to do that. In fact, in lots of the times, attacks will happen, and people will tell you very vividly, we saw these military men working in tandem with the herdsmen to kill. It's not once, it's not twice, it's not 3 times. So what are our people doing? Our people are doing everything they can do under the ambit of the law. The law does not permit you to buy an AK-47. The law does not permit me to sponsor someone to buy an AK-47. All I can do is to motivate and psych my people and train them in the basics of, if you hear an AK-47, this is what you do. Run this way, duck here, X, Y, and Z. That's all we can do. Because these people work within the ambits of the law. Yes, Plateau State has lots of military men, and that has been the case. But what can, within the ambit of the law of the Nigerian government, there's not much that you can do. So T.Y. Danjuma, I think, took it as far as he did by telling us very clearly, defend yourself. And of course, that's permitted under Nigerian law. Self-defense is a normal thing that everyone permits. So, I'm going to go back to my point again about the clash. People talk about the farmer-herder clash. That's a criminal narrative. It's a very criminal narrative that the media have said over and over and over again. And I'll take you back. Go back to Lord Alston on the 28th of June last week. He made it clear and is appealing to the British government to consider reclassifying that because it's not a clash. It's an ethnic pogrom, it's an ethnic cleansing that is going on. Middle Belt tribes, Southern Kaduna, Taraba State. In fact, even Amnesty International last week, you can see the report on the 29th of June. Amnesty International has come out and is accusing the Nigerian government of being complicit in what's happening. So it's a very multifaceted, problem that
Let
we
us
have.
take it that the Nigerian government is complicit in this. Let us take it that the Nigerian government is not doing enough. Let's bring this down to the United Kingdom. When we had a Windrush issue here in the United Kingdom, public outcry,
Mhm.
public outcry forced the government to backtrack, including the former Home Secretary resigning, including the Prime Minister tendering unreserved apology, unstopped public outcry. Now that's the point. What level of outcry has the people from the state, the people, common people in Plateau State, these places that have been affected, how well have you guys mobilized yourself consistently, persistently, giving outcry on this issue, mobilizing the media, mobilizing the international community, mobilizing everybody to understand that what is happening is not a clash, it is a cleansing and it is suicidal.
Fantastic. There are several things we have been doing, and I'll be very specific about this. In Plateau State, as you can imagine, we have protested so much. We've protested so much. Last week, I think it was 3 days ago, there was a massive protest in Plateau. Everybody came together, lots of denominations all came together. They spoke with one voice, they went to the government house, tried to meet the governor and all of that stuff. That's happening. In Abuja, it's been massive. In fact, Obi Ezekweli, she has been leading and driving a campaign in that regard. In fact, I draw you back again. Baroness Cox, here in the UK, you asked me the question. Baroness Cox, she visited a place called Dogonahawa in Plateau. Do you know what happened there? 500 people were killed. 500. Wrap your head around that. 500 people were killed in Dogonahawa. Okay? Herdsmen rock up, surround the village, they shoot everything on sight. They maim and they kill pregnant women, stomach, babies are taken out, people are decapitated, their genitals taken off, their eyes are gouged out. I'm just being clear about this. People need to understand this. So you asked me the question, what are we doing? I think it starts from a very holistic approach. One, the media needs to understand its role of classifying what's happening in Plateau and the Middle Belt accordingly. Because if we classify it as an ethnic pogrom, which is exactly what it is, then we'll start to get the needed help. That's number one. We cannot win. The ordinary man in Plateau will not win when the media is giving it a different coloration. I can shout all that I want to shout. The BBC would not want to hear it. CNN would not want to hear it. That is why, and I'll drop it in here, this Friday at 9 o'clock, we're meeting in Trafalgar Square. We're going to go to the Nigerian High Commission. We're going to protest in the Nigerian High Commission. We're going to go to Downing Street, number 10 Downing Street, and we're going to hand a letter to number 10 Downing Street. Why are we doing that? Why are we doing that? Last week, like I said, Lord Alston spoke about it for the first time ever. This has been going on for 15 years. He spoke for the first time. I'll take you back again. For the first time, Christine Amanpour, she made a statement in that regard. Christine, and I'm going to paraphrase, she said, I've covered crisis in my life for the past decades, 2 decades. If what's happening with Fulani herdsmen is not an ethnic cleansing, then Muhammadu Buhari has lost his integrity. I'll take you back. Donald Trump has made a comment in that regard as well. I'll take you back. Amnesty International, for the first time, has equally made a comment in that regard. So when you look at this thing holistically, and you start to see the picture that's building, people like myself, I can't help but get excited about what's happening, that finally the international community is starting to see, even the Nigerian media are starting to see and fall in line. But it's not yet Uhuru. For us, it's not yet Uhuru. We need every media house to operate and see and understand what's happening in Plateau State, not just in Plateau State, in Benue, in Taraba, in Adamawa, in Southern Kaduna, and the entire Middle Belt, and equally the South. People need to come alive to that, particularly the media. Now, you pardon me, I recognize I'm making lots of points here, but I'll take you a step back. You might ask me the question, what's the objective of what's going on? Is it just a cleansing? It's a cleansing to achieve a means. There's an economic agenda behind that. And I'll give you an example. In Plateau State, as I speak today, there are 43 villages where people have either been totally wiped out or they have been driven out of where they are. The herdsmen have now moved in there. This is a place with lush green grass and abundant savanna, and they're just feeding their cattle. All of those places, the local names have now been changed. They're putting their own names now. They're renaming those places and taking them over. So that's what I mean when I say there's an economic angle to it. It's a cleansing, it's an ethnic cleansing, yes, it's genocide, 100%, but there's an economic angle to it. The economic angle is that, their herds, they are looking for places to graze their herds. So the question I have, for you right now is, what do you think? If you had your place, if you had where your owner board is being taken over like that, how would you approach it? It's a very sad situation. And I think, lots of Nigerians do not understand it, and it's a real shame. But I think the international angle and the international anger that's going on right now in the entire space is driving a lot of change. And I'll say something again. I'll protest on Friday, 10 o'clock on Friday, Trafalgar Square, Nigerian High Commission, and then number 10 Downing Street. In the same time, the guys in the US, the Nigerian community, Plateau State community in the US, are protesting in Washington, D.C., Nigerian embassy there. They're protesting in New York. At the consulate there, they're protesting in Atlanta, in the Nigerian consulate. So, we're giving it an international dimension so we can get the outcry of everybody.
All right, I've been speaking with Dr. Chinan Dekwo, the Vice President of Plateau State Association United Kingdom. We've been talking about the killings in Plateau State the last couple of minutes. Chinan, thank you for joining us on the program today.
Pleasure.
That's how far we can go on the program. It's a chilling description of what has been happening in those parts of the country. We do hope that the government will rise up to its constitutional responsibilities of protecting life and property and defending Nigerians against, not only against external aggression, but it does appear now this is an internal aggression. But I do remember some point that the president did say that those guys, the people involved in the killings are not Nigerians. Well, that means that this is an external aggression. If Mr. President were to be right, then it beholds on the presidency, the entire security forces in Nigeria to protect these people from external aggression, either external or internal. Right, this is how far we can go on the program. It's been a pleasure, so that we can allow people to quickly go back and watch the football match going on. My name is Tunde Alabi. Thank you for joining us on the program today until we come your way again. Dr. Chinan Dekwo, thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
I'll see you guys again next week. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye. Will give you the information that you need.